riff for a minute, and I want to wait till a few more folks stream into our loving room so that we can share all the brilliance that is this amazing man, my brother Carlos Duran. So while we're waiting, while you all are streaming in, welcome everybody. I want to let you know that Rhythmia is open. We are open. We've been open since November. We have one of the most amazing protocols in place. I don't know of any other resort of its kind in the world that's doing this. We do a highly accurate, 98% accurate rapid antigen test before check-in. So everybody that comes is tested before they check in, before they walk on property. And then we do twice daily temperature checks for all the guests while on property. All the staff is checked and tested. And so this gives us the ability to have an experience pre-COVID. People come on property and it is an amazing return to hugging people and being close to people and not distancing ourselves physically, mentally, spiritually, or emotionally. So that's what's going on with Rhythmia. We've got some folks coming in. So just to finish that up, the number is below. Call, check it out. It's easy to go in and out of Costa Rica. Come see us. We'd love for you to come see us. And Carlos will be there with Taita Juanito in March. So without further ado, let me introduce this man who's been so patiently sitting there, Carlos Duran. And let me tell you this. Are you ready? Because this man is considered to be the most notorious spiritual gangster alive today. Word. When you want to live a life of raw authenticity, and that is truly how I experience you, man, like true, authentic, raw, ultimate fulfillment and mega wealth, Carlos Duran is the man you go see, offering you guidance based on his unique blend of spiritual experience and entrepreneurial success. Carlos helps you break past all the mental and emotional BS. That's belief systems, if you didn't know. The mental and emotional BS, which is keeping you from living your true and highest purpose. Carlos has opened the eyes of thousands of seekers who want to define who they are by the quality of their actions, by the depth of their legacy, not by the number of dollars in their bank account. Mega wealth is represented in the highest states of health and abundance for your mind, body, and soul. Carlos Duran is not for everyone. If you'd prefer to live a lie or accept mediocrity, mediocre results, then run when you see him coming, because his medicine is only for the brave who are ready to tear down their own facade and embody the brilliance of who they are. No matter how much you have accomplished or acquired in this life, if you're not waking up every day in pure joy, ready to seize the day but wish you were, and you're willing to strip out your ego and achieve the states of personal empowerment, then you're ready for Carlos Duran and you're ready for Rise Up Revolutionary Conversations. Brother Carlos, welcome.
What's up, Jay? Thank you, Rhythmia. Thank you to everybody that's tuning in. Claudia, Lisa, Romana, Lisa, Aliyah, Gobi, my man, your Shelly, Jane O'Hare, Dorota, thank you so much here and on Facebook and everywhere else and at home watching, listening. May God bless you. May God protect you always. May you always know full joy and the purpose of your creation and the love of your creator. What's up?
That's just beautiful, man. I'm so happy. My heart is full, because like this intentional way of living, like a greeting that says, that affirms the truth about people, for and about people. That's who you are. That's how you walk in the world. And I think it's just what is so attractive, right? Like there's something that resonates in the power and truth of your words that hits and embraces each of us. So thank you. And I'm doing good. I want to know how you're doing. How are you, like, really, how are you doing in these times? This has been challenging for so many people, and yet there have been blessings. There's always the pearl on the other side. So I'd love to know how you're doing and what are the insights and revelations that you've received out of this time, this pause of COVID.
Brother, I thank you so much for asking. And that is not without the caveat that life is going through transitions, a lot of challenges, but through the walk, through the path that I've been gifted, I've learned to see that problems are nothing more than potential growth. It's really an illusion. It's really based on perspective. And I say that because I hype up a lot love, light, and greatness. And anybody asks me, I'm always doing it. But it's not bullshit. Like, I'm for real. But I want people to know that my life isn't some rosy, carefree, walking along a golden brick road thing. I mean, it's treacherous. It is with challenges, just like a lot of people that come into your life to move the ground under you. There's things that come to your life to tell you. And so through love, light. Is my mic muted?
No, it's not muted, but there's a lot of feedback. Maybe if you pull the mic away a little bit or turn it down a little bit, because I think you're just hitting the high points.
How's that?
It's still got a little feedback. Try it again.
Yeah, I'll lower you.
There's a little bit of
that.
Still there, brother.
It's starting to ring.
It's crackling. There's like some crackling when you speak. Okay.
We're gonna Colombia.
we're going to know that it's all going to work out. Gobi's saying, pull the plug out and replug it in. Thank you, Gobi. You want to try that?
All right, Gobi, I'll try that. Gobi an AV guy, so let's try that.
Right. While Carlos is doing that, as soon as he plugs back in. Oh, we lost him. He'll be coming back. He'll come back on here in a second. Yeah, Donna, it is all the electrical vibes. I'm so excited about talking to this guy. He is such an amazing individual, as you all know. I can't wait for him to come back on, and we'll continue the conversation. So good afternoon, everyone. Hey, Julie and Darcy are in the house from Seattle. Lauren, JG, Joaquin from Spain. Bienvenidos, hermano. Nandi, hey, Gobi, thanks for your help, brother. Let me see if Carlos can come back in here. I'll text him. Sorry for the delay. Man, this is such a thank you. Love you too, brother. Lindsay is here. Suzanne. Okay, so we're gonna riff for a minute while Carlos is coming back in on the stream. I want to share with you, a little bit about what has been so profound for me preparing for Carlos. He wants to talk about, I asked, what are the topics that you want to talk about? And he wants to talk about, am I still glitching, Suzanne? Or was it just Carlos that was glitching? He wants to talk about indigenous appropriation of the plant medicine path, which I think is such a fascinating conversation. So I'm waiting for him to jump back in. And the other pieces that he wanted to talk about are living a life of fulfillment. So, what an interesting piece here, the idea that we're all so attracted to plant medicine. There's this huge outpouring and outreach for plant medicine. And yet there's an aspect of it where we are appropriating some aspects of indigenous culture. So this is the aspect of how do indigenous people view this? Because at the same point, the medicine wants to be shared. The medicine wants to be expressed, right? So some consciousness is moving through everyone. And yet at the same time, there needs to be an awareness of how we co-opt and appropriate other aspects of indigenous culture. I'm wondering where Carlos is. Let's see if he's having trouble. See, I can't type and talk at the same time. So listen, here's what we're going to do. We're going to continue talking and just hope that Carlos is going to jump back in. And now I get to riff a little bit on that, right? So cultural appropriation, we're talking about justice. We're talking about respecting other cultural expressions And the appropriation of it is an unjust overreach, where when you're appropriating something, you're assuming it into a larger culture, and in some essence of that, there is a thanks, Shelley. In some essence of that, there is a disregard and a diminishing of the original culture. And so how do we proceed? I'd love to hear your comments. How do you find that you are, wait, I think Carlos is coming in. Come on, baby. Yes, here he is. Without further ado, mi hermano, you're back. Awesome. Awesome. And the sound is great,
all
too.
Right. Is the crackling gone?
Crackling's gone.
No, excellent. All right.
Beautiful, man. So while you were handling the crackling, I started to riff a little bit on cultural appropriation of indigenous medicine path. I wanted to get to some other questions before that, but because we started talking about that while you were away, I want to jump right into that and ask you a little bit about, this was a topic that I think is near and dear to your heart. Flesh out the understanding of cultural appropriation and anything you want to share around that. And then I have some questions I want to ask you.
Yeah, man. So cultural appropriation is very curious. It's another construct with perspective of my teacher, Taita Juanito. That culture, really, when you go far back enough to the origin of humanity, we're one single race. We're the human race. And if we look at the aspiration of humanity, it's to speak the language of love, which stands from the science frequency that love is a unifying frequency. It's a single frequency of unity and of oneness. So culture is something that's meant to be shared. It's something that's meant to unite people, to share, my rice and beans with someone that's making Chinese rice, with making curry. So when we look at culture, we really see the origin of humanity to share things. We're meant to be one, we think. And when we look at the divine paths, or Taita Juanito explains, the pillars of light that were left here many eons ago by Creator, their seeds were planted. So, for example, would be considered like one of these paths. Tai Chi, Qigong, ayahuasca, peyote, San Pedro, cacao, and so many others. Can't name them all. I don't know them all. But each one of these paths were left as a seed or a pillar of regions of the world to be cultivated there, but not to be kept there. They're meant to be shared. Cultural appropriation is really when we take something that the Creator gave to all of us, keep it just for us. We say that's exclusively. There we like dogma and doctrine come in saying, oh, this is only for 40, or, this group can't have access to that because they're not part of the original lineage. Because again, when we study the origin of humanity, we all come from the same origin. So everything that the Creator gave to us, like air, like earth, like fire, the wisdom of mathematics, the wisdom of language, it's meant to be a unifying force. It's meant to be something that we all can partake in, that brings brothers and sisters of different skin colors together, them apart. So to me, when we think of cultural appropriation, I just think of it as another part in the matrix that is wedged in an illusion to apart from ourselves, apart from nature, and apart from one another. So I believe that what we need to do is appropriate as humanity all the culture and embrace all the cultures, and not judge one another, but rather uplift and edify one another through this cultural sharing, so that as a race, become wiser, better, more subtle in the frequency of unconditional love.
Yeah, such beautiful words. First of all, you spoke of the I want to, so a couple of things I want to touch on: the aspiration of humanity. And, you know, that is such a beautiful piece I want to go back to. But before I get to that, I want to ask you for clarification, because I feel like cultural appropriation has something to do with a dominant culture appropriating or taking or assuming a non-dominant culture's traditions into their own. And in that activity, there's something lost from the original culture. So that, you know, I think of cultural appropriation of the indigenous path as like, you know, clearly this consciousness, this pillar of light called ayahuasca that wants to be shared, or plant medicine, or healing journeys, that this wants to be shared, coming from an indigenous tradition, and it's being brought in and taken over by non-indigenous cultures, and there's something that gets lost in that assuming or assumption. That was kind of my understanding of cultural appropriation, but you're talking about cultural appropriation is when one appropriates it to themselves, or to like, oh no, only indigenous can do this, and you're saying no, this is to be shared. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, because we go back to the concept of we're all family. If you go to origin, if you go to source did the human, and in that creation we're all one. So everything here on earth, there is between water and Yahweh, they're both blessings from the creator, or fire and yoga, they're both blessings from the creator. So there's two parts to your question. One, the wisdom keepers of the technology, sacred will never be lost. It is the birthright of humans. It is the creator. The creator itself will always make sure that there are keepers that know how to use the technology and share that technology. That there is corruption within our diff right now. There's corruption with the spiritual path that I've come across. Certainly within every religion, seeing partook in, there's corruption. So in that corruption, a level of appropriation, because there's a certain select few to secrets and keeping them for themselves, allowing the masses to evolve. And one culture takes on another culture knowledge, there are things that get, because that culture is different. There's a change that takes place. But yes, so long as the technology is applied in its true science, in its pure way, then it's not an appropriation. It's an evolution. It's a different way of a necklace, or a different way of planting a garden. The creator has left so much diversity in the way that we can a piece of broccoli, or there's different ways that we can cook a piece of steak. There's so many ways that we can make a smoothie. Elements, and there's a base truth to the technology, something that must not be corrupted, which is the science of the technology, the way that the ancestors gave the math application. Okay, but in that vessel, different ways that we can paint it. There's different tones of music that we can add to it. There's different that we can celebrate it. And what it does is it expands it. It makes it more attractive to more people. It makes it more inclusive rather than exclusive.
So the corruption of the original technology, and it sounds to me like this openness and inclusivity, and from what I know of your practice and Taita Juanito's practice in terms of, you know, your work that you do with our holistic team at Rhythmia, and really training and being part of that, that it's not necessarily only indigenous keepers of the technology that can be true practitioners, or it's not a corruption of that original technology if non-indigenous are utilizing it. Is that resonant with you? Does that fit with what you're saying?
You know, I thought what Teta Juanito explains is that, one, we don't know everybody's soul has been, right? So we could take a snapshot of it, right? Latino background, for example, but where has my soul been Jewish in a past life? Was my soul of a Muslim faith? My soul travel like lands. So all of a sudden we're defining this great concept of a spiritual technology based on a shot of a being, and that's correct because that's very limiting to one fraction of a very long or time sphere, to be more accurate. So what we have to look at is that technology, spiritual technology, is a gift from the Creator, and by the humanity to bring us all together. So if we don't share it, if we don't adopt it, then how could we possibly be part of it? Something here Mia said, she feels that cultural appropriation is when the original culture is mocked and not respected. Speaking to Mia and to that point, which is a very good, I think that's outside of appropriation. That's just more of disrespect. That goes back to the statement of corruption, where we're not respecting, we're not giving honor to. And you find is, again, even, for example, take ayahuasca or yoga. There are those that appear to be in the physical body of their current incarnation, to be of that lineage, so they would be said, oh, it's appropriate for them to practice that culture. But when you look at how they practice the culture, it's a corrupt way. It's either practiced for the pursuit of power or money or sex. That's a corruption of the culture. That's a corruption of the technology. The technology itself be preserved. Even if tomorrow all was lost, the Creator itself would hold that technology until we were ready as a planet to receive it again.
I want to echo that point. The way I come around that understanding is the universe is the most efficient organism. There's nothing is ever wasted. Nothing is ever lost. Nothing. Energy is neither created nor destroyed, but transferred or conveyed into various forms. So, there was part of me is listening to you going, wait a minute, but if everybody disappeared, we're going to lose this ancient tradition and da-da-da-da-da. But then there was the metaphysical, spiritual truth that nothing is lost. And that all is held in the mind of God, always seeking to express itself in, through, and as, looking for the appropriate vessel, whoever's willing and open. So, I thank you so much for that, brother, because you helped me crystallize that in my mind. Your words are so beautiful. Back to the aspiration, there's so much corruption or aberration in our society, but behind every corruption, behind every aberration is an inspiration or an aspiration. Right. So we can always look to see, even in the worst, quote, worst setting, there was a real intention for love behind it. Right. So that was just so beautiful. We are all the true aspiration of humanity is to speak love, unity, and oneness.
The language word.
Your beautiful words, brother. So tell us, about, I want to talk a little bit more about money and spiritual living, because that is a huge topic. But before we get there, I want to know, like, brother, you tell us about your journey from how you got to where you are, your story of germination.
Yeah, I'll break it down into parts because it's a fair journey, and I feel like I've lived multiple lifetimes, 42 years. And one time, one guy said to me, he goes, "Carlos, it's like you're Arabian." And I was like, "Yeah, word, that's true." I've been like this, some kind of weird, scholar pirate through life. And the type of gangster is not something for myself. It's just something that so many people have to me that I now embrace it, step away from it. So I don't consider myself to be a spiritual person. I make mistakes. I'm by no means an enlightened being. I'm a human being that seeks to fulfill His greatest design, will of my Creator. So when I started out, I was born in New Jersey. Shout out to East Coast people out there, with much everyone else in between as well. All parts of. I consider myself a universal citizen. I was born in a Section 8 neighborhood, which is basically a welfare or government subsidized area. I grew up in a very violent home. I was raped as a child for years by a family member. My dad, God bless his soul, was a professional criminal, higher echelon of criminal enterprise. And that's the environment that I grew up in. Till about my early 20s, I had a breakdown. I couldn't look at myself anymore. I literally had my favorite car, candy apple red interior Jaguar XK8, pearl white with cream interior Infiniti J30. I had a black 350 BMW I convertible, Cadillac. I had jet skis. I had an apartment in downtown Miami. I had a 3-bedroom house with a pool, a quarter acre of land in South, and 50K in my home safe at any given time, right? But I also slept with a loaded 40 caliber Koch. I didn't go anywhere. Sometimes I'd have to travel with bodyguards, and the money wasn't it, man. I drank deep from the cup of gluttony. I would drop 5 strip club on any given Tuesday. That wasn't even the weekend. That's for real. To go to sleep, I'd have to drink about a fourth of whiskey every night. My Jack Daniels, and it was rough, bro. It was rough. Keep facade, keeping up the pace. Staying 3 steps of everyone else that was interested in your demise. And I didn't know better because that's the world I grew up in. I just didn't know better. My mom was a pillar of light in my life. She taught me to pray from the age of 4. And that winning beacon that was planted that activated in my early 20s. That beacon that my mom put there. Boop, boop, time to come home. But I didn't know where home was. And I remember I put up black sheets or whatever sheets I could find in all the mirrors in my house. I shaved all the hair off my body. And I just resigned life, became a hermit for about 2 months. Thank God for my best friend at the time, Juan Fernandez. He'd remind me that he'd bring food to me. I became one of the world's best spades player, and really good at smoking a lot of time. And that's how I coped, because there was something that just wasn't right anymore. And a lot of the seeds that had been planted to fruition. One of the big in my life was my dad's girlfriend at my age, and we'd been together. Jeanette and I were, and she killed herself with my dad's gun in his penthouse, and that was it. That was the apex for me. This is not worth it, but I didn't know what was it. And then I began a whole journey. I monetarily, I lost everything that I had, or was taken back by the universe. Thank God, it was all tainted anyway. I became. I remember Zen for me was him. I started working in the gym, and I was the towel boy. I went from the head of a multinational empire, having 156 employees under me, to being the towel boy at a gym. Wow. And for me, Zen was coming into the morning and drying the towels and feeling those. I remember I would take those towels. I figured, let's feel so good. I have to fold them in the perfect stacks, and everything had to be ready by 6 o'clock when the gym opened up for the member. And ironically enough, my dad was a member of that gym. Come and see me, be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Dude, I love you, but I got nothing to do with your world anymore, bro. I'm a towel boy, and I'm happy." And from there, the natural hustler in me began to. After a little while, I was looking at the personal trainers. I was to make good money and they have a good life. So I became and then I met this amazing man named Gary Halbert, who is truly the first soul war that I ever met in my life. He was an extraordinary marketer, extraordinary copywriter. And one one Wednesday, he says, you know, how would you know more about what I do? And I was like, well, what do you do? He's like, I write for a living. Word. Friday, when I get to the gym, there's a huge FedEx box just stuffed with newsletters and books. And he had that sent to my house. I didn't sleep, and I consumed everything. He came back for his session on, oh, did you get my material? I was like, yeah, I got it. He's like, oh, did you read it? I was like, yeah, I read it. He goes, oh, I go, everything. He's like, everything? I go, yeah, I read everything. Every newsletter, every book you sent me, I read it. He's like, you want to come work for me? Like, word. You know, and that a whole new adventure in my life with Gary, because Gary was a little shout out to Gary because he was truly a phenomenal human being. You know, he was an outlaw in his own right. He had what he called the perfect, which was a coral peach Rolls Royce. He also had a coral peach Toyota Camry because it was always about the bling for him. He lived in a 6-foot houseboat, coral peach, bayfront of Bayside, town Miami. And he taught me a lot about living an ethic life, about environment, about how environment really dictates. He really pushed. He taught me the secret of making my bed first. You know, he taught me the secret of, my mom said to me, you know, even though you might be growing up poor, you know, you always have to be clean. Mm-hmm. And then Gary broke me out of that. He said, you've never been poor and you'll never be poor. You're just broke right now. And that's a pocket. Poor is a permanent condition of the soul. Mm. And from that leap, yeah. And Gary lit me up. Gary to really, Gary one that inspired me to blend business with service. He's the one that taught me that you can make money, slave to money. He taught me to dedicate my life to the health and wealth of my mind, my body, and my soul. A lot of the constructs of the makes of what I thought money was and how it was made and how it should be applied. And he taught me how that I could choose always how I made, and I could choose how I spent my money. And he inspired me to do things, both in action and in service and words. And then from Gary, I went to study at the Kabbalah Center. I had an amazing teacher, Shimon Safadi, the soul. He has now physically passed on from this world. And Shimon taught me, one of the great things that I learned from Shimon was, don't focus on the things that you didn't get. Be grateful and focus on the things that you did get. And that, again, brought another paradigm shift into my life as to how I experienced life, not focusing on what didn't happen or what should have happened, but rather looking at the lesson, the blessing, and the potential growth in everything that was happening, did happen. And then from there, I really into organic agriculture. And it was a huge blessing in my life, living in Costa Rica. I got turned on to an amazing series called The Ringing Cedars of Russia, and the protagonist of the story, her name is Anastasia, and the series it's based on her true life, and it's written by her husband Vladimir Merg, and that brought me into a greater of the history of humanity. And under that, there was a whole underlying study matrix of the construct of addicts. And this brought me, it was a culmination in my life. And believe it or not, a big threat, hip-hop. The hip-hop culture, hip-hop music has inspired me in moments of my life, has taught me that I'm a hustler and I could have to be knocked out, and that no knockout is permanent. Get back up, wash yourself off, and get back in the game. And through that, I met a lot of different people. And I met a lot of people in physical sense. I met a lot of powerful people in this sense, but that's outside of this conversation at the moment. And a lot of money and wealth. And I just got to see a reflection, happiness that I experienced back in my early and my teens. I was like, wow, this is really a thing. And then I told Joaquin Sada, and he says something to me. He goes, yo, your life has to be than dollars in your bank account. As you can see, I've piled all this on, and this is what so much clarity into my life. Eventually, I'm working at a farmer's market in Costa Rica, and my boy next to me, Tristan, big shout out to Tristan, said, hey, You want to go to a peyote ceremony? I was like, word, let's go drink some peyote. Never done that before. When is it? He's like, tonight. I was like, word, let's go. So after the mark, we hit up to the hills. We have peyote. About 4 or 6 weeks later, he says to me, yo, you want to go drink some ayahuasca? I said, word. You know, I thought I'd have to go to drink ayahuasca. I'm like, when is it? He goes, tonight. Like, who's giving the ayahuasca? He goes, and I said, oh, wait a minute, shaman. Those guys are snake oil. Sure about this? He's like, well, let's go check it out. So I remember they were doing two nights up in this mountain. You have to walk 4 nights up this really mountain. And I bought money for 2 nights, but I only signed up for 1, right? Because I didn't know the shaman was a snake oil salesman. He wasn't going to sucker me into anything, right? You know, always on guard, you know,
right.
And to drop that armor as well. And sure enough, there's this little 5'7", probably 160 pounds if his clothes were soaking wet, little there. And I'm like, oh, who knows about this? He's so young. And I don't know. All right, I'll drink. And so I drank, and I had an amazing experience. All mentions came through. I had amazing visions, visions. They weren't like celestial, real, but things that I was seeking in my life. So I stayed for the second night. And the second night, at that point in my life, I've been reading about Eastern philosophy. I was reading this book called The 11th Hour. And I had this whole thing in my mind about, you know, masters and teachers and everything like that. And in the night, I wake up, and there's about 20 of us in the Maloka, which is the sacred space where ceremonies held. And this Maloka was very big, very dark, with a fire pit in the center. And I hear all this noise around me. So I wake up. I'm like, oh, what's going on, man? And I see this little Indian, the same little Indian, which is the guide of the ceremony. It appeared to me that he had multiplied himself, because there was one version of him standing in front that was in the Maloka. And to some of them, he was like kind of crazy chants or songs or something, which now I've come to know are the Icaros. Dry leaf thing, and some others, which is the white. I think he was playing harmonic over anything. This is only my second night of ever being exposed to this matter. But I get it in my that if I can find the teacher and touch his feet, I'll be illuminated. Because in my mind, that's the whole point of him being multiplied. I now have to go on this dirt floor, trying not to bubble in this, you know, state of heightened consciousness. And every time I touch a foot, it's just dirt. It's just. Eventually, I get to the end of the Maloka, and I remember that somewhere back there was a hammock, and he had been laying in that at some point in time. So I crawl up to the hammock all quiet, and I look up, and there he is, back and forth with a harmonica over his hand like this, and his hand over his heart. And I look back, and all the noise is going on, and he still multiplied. And I said, oh, man, this guy's legit. That's the day that I fell in Juanito. It's not the day that I married myself to him, but it's definitely fell in love with him. And from there, the last 8 years have been a path of sharing inspiration with others, because I came to understand is that if a true street pit bull like me could be given the gift of love, everyone's qualified for it. No one gets left out. And it's been my purpose to fulfill my greatest design to the Creator. It's been my desire to bring inspiration, to bring tools to the world, and to help us all come together despite the darkness that is so shrewdly devour us. In the end, love wins.
Woo! Hey, man, thank you so much for sharing the entirety of that story. So powerful, and it speaks, you know, the comments in the chat. It's really resonating with people, and oh, you know, one of the things that struck me most about the story was your friend who I forgot his name, the guy in Miami who sent you the books that you read. Gary, right? And like what an angel, that moment, right? That helping hand. And I think so many people today, especially, you know, we're in this conversation nationally about how to help people, socialism, all of that kind of repartee that's going on between the liberals and the conservatives in the United States. And I remember for myself that I had someone like that, a helping hand that came. Man, we all have so much potential, and it's not necessarily a hand out, but a hand up that just at the right time activates something within us and changes the trajectory of our life. And I think that was such a beautiful moment. And then as you talked about living an authentic life, and truly, man, that is such a beautiful expression of who you are, and your words are so powerful and authentic. And it is true. Like, if we all don't get across the finish line, none of us get across the finish line. And I think, yeah. So now you've rolled this into a really dynamic connection of being of service, Spirit using you and your connection with Taita Juanito and the work that you do together. And you've got a market, you've moved beyond monetary gain for the sake of monetary gain. And you are combining the abundance, the natural abundance and harmony and balance and order that is the nature of life and the universe and God, and living your life in that way in service. So that leads me to the next question of, making money and spiritual living, which you seem to be doing really well in terms of being an expression of the inherent abundance of the universe, and being spiritual. I always say that there's 4 P's to profit: people, purpose, planet, and profit. And I think you exemplify that. Share with us a little bit about your ideas of spiritual living and making money.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. In fact, just having a conversation about this last night with Ted Juanito, because I do draw fire because of that, and a lot of criticism. And here's the summary of it. And I'll take a lot from last night's conversation about this. One, it depends. I want to give a shout out real quick to Shelly, to Gobi, to Debbie, to Amo, Nick. Thank you so much for coming on there. Thank you so much, all of you. Love you guys. May bless you and God protect you always. So when it comes to, all right, so is not defined by money. Money is just a game, and I think the game is over and the casino is just running on power generators, right? When you look at money, first you have to ask yourself, what is it that you want, right? Projects, what are your purposes in life? And if you want to live a recluse, if you want to live the life of a hermit, that's blessed. That's that's beautiful. That's awesome. Money to me is just a tool, and to what is it that you do? So, for example, Four Visions Market, the website that we have that bridges the Western world with the Amazonians that people's life requires. Well, let's take COVID as an example, which you touched on. During COVID, when a lot of these tribes couldn't travel out of the jungle as they normally would, because a lot of people don't understand the industrial world has reached the Amazon. Unless you're a very remote, you need some kind of money for clothes, to materials, to make your goods, to exchange, to buy certain foods, to have better education. Because even the tribes want their children to be part of the technological world, positive sense. They don't want them to be ignorant of the technological world. During COVID, there was need for medicine, there was need for clean water, and through money, made that support happen. I can't, it's raining behind me, but I can't take 50,000 gallons of water from this rain, put it on an airplane to the Amazon. If I did, it still require money to do it. So money is really a tool for if you're a singer, if you're an artist, a sculptor, a woods person, that after, and that's your art, and that's your art, and you bring that art into the world. My art happens to be enterprise, upscaling enterprise for the purpose of bringing it back to, for example, through Magic Fund, nonprofit that I'm very honored to have founded and be a part of. we've already acquired over 300 hectares of prime Amazonian land. That didn't happen without money. The land preservation project that we have there, the medicine project, the food preservation project, the nearly extinct and rare plant life project that we have there doesn't happen without money. The work on that land, they need money to work. They don't work for free. So money is just a way of getting something done. Those are the want to get done. Now, understanding that if you want to live a simple life, a simple life, that's also honored because that's the picture. That's part of the beauty of the tapestry. But when we look at the Creator that lives in abundance, the Creator truly lives in an excess of greatness. When you look at a field of fruit trees, it produces so much fruit that it appears to wait on the ground, as fruit as fruit drops and it rots. But really, what nature is saying to us is live in abundance. The oceans are full of water. The rivers constantly run. And with that, we see that a key to abundance is sharing. A key to abundance is planting seeds. So again, going back to what you said, I like to take purpose and profit and sit with people and create a channel for my passion. And that's an invitation to everyone that feels that ashamed or that they have I don't want to deal with money because, well, then how are you going to get your project done? How are you going to hire the best people who also have responsibilities to their own life? Maybe it's loans, maybe it's rent, maybe it's food, maybe it's a spouse and kids, maybe it's all of the above. There's a responsibility there. So until we're able to extrapolate ourselves from the money, we need to use the tool to progress into light. The more land that we acquire through consciousness, the more food that we plant, the more that we clean the water and go into clean technology, free technology, because the science, Tesla and his predecessors have already proven that. We can use a way to get away from, ironically enough. But again, it depends on your purpose, right? So you can have a very simple life and that be your gift to the world. That's how you create abundance, is through simplicity. You can have a life that is comfortable, where you're able to provide for yourself, for your family, for your community, right? Or you have a life of more extreme financial wealth, where you can go out, provide for yourself, your family, your community, and then the planet around you as well.
I think of money as stored potential. It's like this promissory note of what's possible. And like anything, it can be used, it can be used in service, or it can be used in a way that doesn't support or benefit life, right? And so this promissory note, is this circulatory note, allows us to step into potential and possibility. And I think
at the end of the day, Jay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It's deception, right? I mean, there's a great mind called Charles Eisenstein, and he wrote a book called, which I highly recommend. And really, when we look at it, we should get back to a gifting economy, because money is just paper, has no value. But like you said very wisely, it has stored potential. So while we deal with, right, while we deal with it, we ascribe to it the potential. How we subscribe to money makes the difference. As Joshua Ben Joseph said, it's the love of money that is evil. But if money is just cool, like a hammer or a nail or this video camera, microphone, right? If it's just that you use to create a greater expression of life, taking that circulatory stored potential and giving it purpose.
Okay.
Book is Sacred Economics.
And
Sacred Economics by Charles Eisenstein.
And The Ringing Cedars of Russia was a series that you mentioned?
Yeah, that's a 10 series, a volume. Yeah.
So you're just dropping some wisdom, man. And I also think of this, rhythmia gets talked about in this arena as well, right? And there's a sense of like, things should be free. Why aren't you doing this for free, right? And I think there's this new model coming up. Like the old model was like the Carnegies and the Rockefellers. They just screwed everybody, made a ton of money, and then did some philanthropy, right? You know, like that's the old model. Let me fuck everybody over here, and then I'll give you some money over here. Right. But that maybe exactly. I think the new model is this broader idea of including, as you said, people and planet and purpose into the realization that that the life of spirituality, the life of service, isn't necessarily a life of physical lack. And as you pointed out,
physical abundance.
Right. It's not right that it's not a choice between lack or how was I saying that? That to be spiritual and to be in service, to be used fully by the Creator, to express our gifts and talents, to become a beneficial presence in our communities and on the planet, doesn't mean that we have to be materially poor. Right. That was you have to be a pauper, poverty as the means of service for a priest, for example. But I think that we can step into, nature as our teacher. You've been talking so beautifully today about all of the ways that we see the abundance in nature, in the ocean, in the streams, and in the fruit, right, multiplying and falling. We see that abundance is the nature of God. That it takes out of itself and creates more of itself without ever depleting itself. This is the nature of the universe. And we too, I love the biblical reference. It is the Father's good pleasure to give you the keys to the kingdom. Let me, open up a blessing. Prove me now, says the Lord of hosts, that I will not open up the heavens and pour a blessing down upon you too big to be contained, right? That is the teaching of prosperity for everyone. So I'm so with you on that new model of creating systems where all people are included, brought up, abundance, and fulfilling purpose. Brother, I've just loved talking to you. We're drawing to the end of our time. I want to ask you one more question. This life, living a life of fulfillment. Tell us about living this life of ultimate fulfillment. What is ultimate fulfillment for you?
Yeah. So fulfillment is the pursuit of balance between mind, body, and soul with the purpose of fulfilling your highest, greatest design. From a perspective, to be very simplified, your life is like a movie theater, right? The movie complex. And you come into the theater, and there's 10 movies playing, right? In each one of the room. The first room, the worst version of your life possible. The 10th room has the greatest version of your life, all valid. And is that the Creator designed you to fulfill your greatest and highest purpose. But it's through our choice of what we plan, cause and effect, the choices that we make as to what version of the movie we're living in. And the beauty of the secret is that at any moment in time, scale up to that greatest version possible, just by making, as Taita Loriano, blessed soul, said, Taita Juanito's teachers, think beautiful, act beautiful, and live beautiful. So have a beautiful life. You will naturally to the greatest of your life possible. So, for example, with me, one of my greatest challenges has been my weight, the way that I emotionally relate to with food. For me, pursue higher states of physical well-being, being connected to my nutrition in a balanced, emotional, psychological way. It's been a big challenge for me, but it's been a beautiful road, and I'm super grateful. I'm super grateful every time that I eat a healthy meal, every time that I get to go to the gym and put in a good workout. I feel like I did grind. I put in my time, and it feels just as when I go out to nature and I balance my soul, or I go and pray and meditate, or I edify with some knowledge that I could then apply into life. And so ultimate fulfillment is having a life where your body and your soul are in a pursuit of balance with the purpose of fulfilling your highest destiny or your greatest design according to the will of the Creator. I want to touch on something, Jay, before we go to just a second. I just want to give Jerry and Rhythmia and you, entire staff, a huge shout out, because people isn't Fincan Biwasi free, which is Teta Juanito, or why isn't Rhythmia free? One, we do have programs. We do offer both. Fincan Biwasi offer, but people have to understand what Rhythmia is. Rhythmia is an business concept for a man that was set for life, cashed out everything, and took all that and put into this unproven business concept. Purpose of creating a pillar of light for the Western world, creating a bridge that allows the Western mind to find comfort in a place and meet an ancestral path. And that takes balls. It takes testosterone. If you were a woman, it would have taken ovaries and estrogen, but he happens to be a dude, so that's what it took for him to do it, and Rhythmia runs 24/7. People know during COVID, reached into his pocket and kept paying salary. He created work where there was no work to be created so that people could keep eating. Paid some of the best salaries in the country by working at Rhythmia. Opportunity, network, education, spiritual fulfillment. And this is just the staff. These are just the house and groundskeepers. Never mind what happens when you go to Rhythmia as a visitor, as a participant to receive soul expanding experience, changes lives. So why do you need money? Because the lights have to be kept on, because the food has to be served, because the medicine keepers that come there, they have patients too, because of the networks that created through Rhythmia. It gives back to indigenous communities, then take that money, are able to grow and expand and share with their youth their ancestors. So it's a beautiful bio happens. So I just want to give Jerry and Rhythmia and you, Jay, and everyone else, staff, a huge shout out, hug. And if people don't understand, that's okay. But if we take emotions out of it for a second and do a little bit of research, why spiritual institutions do require money, because we name at the moment, that's not the end goal. That's just a temporary moment.
Wow, brother. I'm going to call you Reverend Carlos from now on, because you speak like a right reverend.
No,
brother.
man. That's my job. No, man.
No, seriously, just truth and beautifully spoken, authentically spoken. I'm so grateful. I want to cut that and give it to Jeremy. Like, dude, we were talking about you. Carlos said some really nice stuff, right? It was beautiful. Thank you for that, and thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for the light that you bring. Thank you for your yes and your willingness to walk this path and to constantly excavate yourself so that you can be of service for your own spiritual growth and development, to walk that path with others, and clearly the things that you're doing in service to a world that works for the best and highest individual and collective good everywhere, whether it's in the Amazon or in North America. Man, I just want to kudos and acknowledge you and shout out to you, and so much thanks for the work that you do. So much thanks. But honestly, brother, and Taita Juanito, we're so excited. When are you guys coming? It's March. Are you there in March?
Yeah, no, Juanito's going to be there next week. He'll be at Rhythmia. You can always go to Rhythmia to get an amazing experience where the Western medicine, the Western comfort meets the ancestral path. If you want to come to a Colombian experience, that's fincanbiwasi.com. You can check out Taita Juanito. If you're looking for spiritual tools, or in fact, I have a course called the Ultimate Fulfillment Course. It's absolutely free, and you get that at 4 Visions Market under online courses. That's 4visionsmarket.com. And if your heart is cold to support on, if you want to reach into your pocket and drop $10,000 or $100 or $10 towards projects that are direct action projects in the Amazon, check out magicfundamazon.com. So we've got those 3 resources there. Fincan Biwasi, 4 Visions Market, and Magic Fund.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Carlos Duran, my brother. I look forward to being with you soon. And I'm so grateful for the generosity of your time, and I'm grateful for who you are. God bless you, brother.
Big hug to everybody out there. Thank you so much. Yes. Sean, Donna, Mia, Shelly, Rick, Gobi, everybody watching. May every day be the absolute greatest day of your life. May you always know the Creator flowing in you and around you at every moment. May God bless you and may God bless you always. Thank you so much, Jay. Thank you so much, Rhythmia. Thank you to you at home. May you be inspired to go out and live the greatest version of your life always.
And so it is. And so it is. Thank you, brother. Thank you all so much, knowing that you are constantly guided to an ever-increasing good, led to ever-widening fields of awareness and an ever deeper connection with the source of all of life. Many blessings and much gratitude for your presence. Thank you all. We'll see you next week.
Bless Sarah. Hi. I see you got much. God bless.